Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Gavin Reshaw Presents. We got some people in the chat room. I want you to shout or say something on the chat room box over here. I hope everybody's doing good. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon. Wherever you're at, you enjoy life. I hope you do something positive. Say something in the chat room if you're watching. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Uh, who's watching? Yeah, okay. Well, at any rate, guys, lots been going on this weekend. A lot of developments in the Bill Cosby case. I won't get into that too much, but I wanted to talk about what happened over the weekend. Okay, so everybody's been talking about this on social media with Katt Williams, legendary comedian who was on the Frank and Wanda show in Atlanta. I believe it's WB 103 in Atlanta, Georgia. Wanda Smith is a comedian there. Supposedly, I don't know too much about her. But anyway, they had Katt Williams on the show, and I watched the video in the exchange that happened. And from what they described, Katt didn't even, they give an explanation of what happens, obviously, when uh, trying to clap back goes wrong or goes bad. And I did see the video that of Katt and Wanda basically ribbing each other. But what happened? They were asking him questions, and he gave his opinion on different topics from the Netflix deal that Monique didn't get, and her call for boycotting. What he does, how he owns the rights to all of his comedy specials, and how he actually has been working with other female comedians who are not getting the same breaks that you see Tiffany Haddish getting. He claps back at Kevin Hart and Gerard Carmichael and Hannibal Buress. He called Lil Rel ugly and all kinds of things. He was just going off. But he did it on cruise control. It's like he wasn't even talking about or trying hard to even diss any of these people. And then Wanda got to clap back at him when Katt was making a joke about her cooking skills, or he asked her, "What dish do you cook?" And she said something along the effects about broccoli. They like what you do with her broccoli, and he just clowned her on it, but it was not bad. But then it got to a point where she started to talk about, him going to prison, and about prison, about your hair isn't how bad your hair is. You don't have a perm, and he went hard and clapped back, and she could not recover. And apparently, and I have a copy of the police report, an incident happened over the weekend where Katt was at the Atlanta Comedy Theater because he was performing that night at the Phillips Arena, if I'm not mistaken, or that weekend. And he was going to see Red Grant because Red Grant, who was a friend of his, actually was performing. And in fact, Red Grant was at the radio station with Wanda and Frank doing the interview. They asked Katt to come in at the last minute and sit down, and he actually did. Frank Ski is his name. Yeah. So I'm just pulling up here. So one of the things that Wanda tried to do, as I read her statement, she actually tried to pass blame on her co-host Frank Ski for the incident. When Katt was not stopping, he didn't stop Katt from continuing to talk at Wanda and make jokes about her. But the thing is when you invite a comedian like Katt Williams, a seasoned comedian who's been doing this for over 20 years now, his history, you have his specials, and you try to diss him, that it is not probably the wisest thing to do. You don't go and take a stick and poke it at a rattlesnake and then cry when a rattlesnake bites you back, or stick your head in a crocodile's mouth, thinking the crocodile's mouth is not going to close, but when he sees food, it's going to chomp down. So I don't think that you can, and on top of that, you're a comedian, so you're obviously used to jokes and insults being thrown, and you throw them out. And if you're not used to it, then you're probably not in the right field. Now, I just saw this, and here's the police report that I'm looking at from. Give me 1 second. I'm actually pulling it up from my phone. I was reading it earlier, but apparently or allegedly, a gun was pulled out, according to the police report dated from September 17, 2018. This is on Monday. A GCPD officer was working off duty security job at the Atlanta Comedy Theater on Saturday night around 9:30 p.m. The officer requested the assistance of an on-duty officer to assist him investigate a dispute between Mika Katt Williams, age 47, and Lamorris Sellers, age 48. According to the officer, Wanda Smith Sellers and Katt Williams had a verbal altercation at the Atlanta Comedy Theater that stemmed from an interview that Wanda conducted with Katt previously in Atlanta. Katt told the officer that Wanda's husband, Lamorris Sellers, pulled a gun on him and pointed it in his face. Katt and his security guard fled the food depot next door where the officer had his initial contact with them. After meeting with Katt, the officer approached Lamorris and asked him what happened. Lamorris said that Katt had a verbal altercation with Wanda. He said that Katt indicated that he wanted to fight. According to Lamorris, he approached Katt and chased him into the food department, where he left him and returned to the Atlanta Comedy Theater. When asked if he had a gun on him, he said yes. Lamorris states that as he was chasing Katt, the gun fell from his waistband and he bent to retrieve it. However, he never pointed it at anyone. No independent witnesses came forward to speak with the officers about what happened. The officer viewed the video footage from the food depot food depot surveillance cameras. The footage shows Lamorris chasing Katt into the store. However, it does not show Lamorris with a gun in his hands. The officer was told that the Atlanta Comedy Theater has surveillance cameras, but they could not be accessed at that time. Katt eventually told the officer that he did not want to prosecute. The officer stated that he would be attempting follow-up in this investigation. If the video surveillance shows any crimes, criminal charges could be, and it stops right here. But you can find this on Tariq Nasheed's Twitter handle. He actually posted about it because he has a lot of respect for Katt Williams, and I respect Katt as a comedian myself. I think that he's arguably one of the best out here doing stand-up. I remember when his big break came from the 2002 movie, a 2003 movie, Next Friday After Next, which he did as Money Mike, and he teamed with Ice Cube and Mike Epps and Terry Crews and Katie O'Bear, John Witherspoon, DC Curry, and a few other people. It was, great movie. I laughed at it hard. But, Katt has always had trouble, obviously, with the law, but he has never been, been prosecuted on most of these charges. He's never been to prison. And Wanda was trying to, obviously, from the interview I see, clap at him for that. And the thing is, once again, if you go in this arena, if you go into a zoo and you jump over the fence and you go into the gorilla pen, don't be surprised when the gorilla attacks you and drags you all across the pen. Now, she probably didn't expect what happened at the radio show during that time, but it seemed like she was clapping back at him, taking it personal, and then he took shots at her about how she's big on the radio, where she could get getting the jewelry from Citgo if you buy 2 packs of 100 Newports. And having Red Grant on there obviously didn't make it any better, because Red Grant's laugh is just infectious. So when he's laughing, you want to laugh. So it made it worse. And then Frank Ski is laughing at her too. And apparently, I'm reading another article, and I'll post it here. Wanda blamed Ski for not trying to break up the interview. But you brought him on there. You wanted him to come, and you mentioned some personal things about him. What did you expect to happen? Now, despite all of that, and I want to get into some other things he talked about in the interview, Katt brought up, I put that article in the chat room. he brought up some things about owning his own special. Now, I don't know Cat Williams personally. I don't even know Tiffany Haddish. I just seen, just from what I've seen on social media, connected with her, and uh, her movies that she did, like Girls Trip, which was a hit movie. Cat talked about that, and he talked about the fact that now people are who are not comedian, who are claimed to be comedians. You mentioned the Gerard Carmichaels and the Hannibal Buress and so forth. Hollywood is putting, and Lil Rel, Hollywood puts those comedians out there because they know they're not in his words, they're not attractive people, but we're going to give you the spotlight because this is what, we want our brand to be. This is what we think comedy is. He said, even with Netflix doesn't have anything to do with comedy. What they have to do with their only relationship with comedy is numbers. They know by the ticket sales from when they watch Amy Schumer. And of course, Amy Schumer to me has never been funny. But they look at the Amy Schumers and they'll give her a $10 million deal. They'll obviously look at a Dave Chappelle, who's obviously one of the greatest stand up comedians of all time. Same thing with Chris Rock. And they'll give them millions of dollars. Why? Because they know they can put asses in seats. And Monique's ticket sales, from what he described, only sold 300 something thousand or so. They decided that was the deal we're going to give you. Now, when he talked about Tiffany Haddish, he talks about how Hollywood basically wanted her because, she wants to sleep with a white man. And what I do notice, and what he was saying, if you look at in regards to that, you look at an actress like Halle Berry. Back in the day, in the '90s, I can remember when Halle Berry was when she was just starting out. You know, practically every man wanted her. Every brother I know wanted Halle Berry. And by the time she did the movie Monsters Ball in, I believe it was 2001 or 2002, at that time, and she did that sex scene with Billy Bob Thornton, you notice she got the Oscar right after that. And then you notice that her career started to take off, but they were putting her in some movies that weren't really that great because she did the Catwoman movie, which sucked. And then she did Swordfish, and she did a couple of other things, you know. So there is something in Hollywood where, when you do certain scenes, it's almost like when you see the black men putting on the dresses, you notice that their careers take off, or they're effeminate in a role that's effeminate somehow, their careers will take off. And, they will basically, at the industry that you're in Hollywood, it is about who you know and who you sleep with. Halle Berry's manager, one of the managers managed her old manager, I believe. He also managed Taraji P. Henson. He was caught up in this whole Me Too movement as well, and wanted to, I guess, made indecent proposals. I take care of you, you take care of me. And this is the type of stuff that's been going on in Hollywood. It didn't start with Harvey Weinstein or any other mogul. It didn't start with those guys. It's been going on. They make money. It's a big casting couch. That's all Hollywood is. All of these studios. So, going back to Tiffany Haddish, as far as comedy is concerned, I don't know her personally, and I don't, I want her to make her money. I want them all to make their money. But, personally, do I find her funny? Her style of comedy? It's not mine. No. I think that she's getting a break because this is what the industry is putting out, just like with Gerard Carmichael. I mean, I've tried to watch his stuff. I didn't laugh. Hannibal Buress, I just think Hannibal Buress is funny. His only claim to fame is outing Bill Cosby. Let's just be real. I mean, he's a good comedian, yeah, but do I put him on the level of Dave Chappelle? I would, no. I mean, do I even put myself on those guys' levels? And I do stand up. No, I don't. I know that I'm not. I'm not gonna say I'm not ready, but I know I ain't there yet. But you just got to keep pushing. And there are a lot of people that are great comedians that I've seen that don't get the breaks that you think they should. You know, somebody like Paul Mooney, for instance, who was obviously one of the greatest stand-up comedians. I mean, great comedy writer, but he never got $100 million deal from Universal Studios to go do these movies. But he was able to work with Richard Pryor. He was able to work under Eddie Murphy and take care of himself like that. Red Fox, the guys that did get the break, and those guys actually had to be talented back then. Now, anybody that gets on social media and can get 100,000 views and 10 likes or 12, 10 or 12,000 likes or so forth, they're going to end up with endorsement deals. Meanwhile, somebody that busts their ass, for 10 or 15 years, they'll never get that break. And that's just the bottom line. It's the sad truth. So, and I always felt like, again, and this is just me, with female comedians, there are very few that can make me laugh. I'm just being real. Some more is someone that I die laughing over. Nell is someone I laugh at. Melanie Camacho, and Katt mentioned her. I've seen Melanie Camacho before. She was okay. Some things that she did. But Tiffany Haddish, some things she does is funny, but I never really I've never been into her. I think that she was, you look at her life story, things she went through, being homeless and so forth. It's a sad story. And yeah, she's overcome a lot and she's getting her big break, and that's fine. That's good. But I've always felt basically, and I know this because this is what we hear from actors and actresses, especially black actors and actresses and writers who have been in the meeting rooms with the white executives who run Hollywood. They have a certain image that they think of black people. They have they want to put you in this certain box, and they think this is all that sells. This is what you get. So Tyler Perry, you come over here, you make these movies. You're gonna keep being in a dress. You're gonna keep doing comedy. It's just like when you don't see black dramas on television anymore. When I'm talking about black dramas, I mean the shows like the New York Undercover, things of that nature. That's not on anymore. Shows like that show positive images. There's a reason why you will never see A Different World come back on, but you can see Roseanne come back on, and Roseanne's show gets renewed even without her. Now, she didn't create that show, and I don't think she's going to get any residuals from it, obviously being that she was fired from this updated reboot. But now you see they don't really go punished when they say things or do things about black people. What they do is they just go away and get a check and chill. Just like this Coast Guard employee that made that white supremacist sign. They didn't say he was fired. Excuse me one second. Yeah. They just go somewhere on vacation. So with Tiffany Haddish, I always felt that she was basically the replacement for Monique, just a thin version. Like, that's just me. I'm not, again, God bless her and all the work she's done. But, I just it doesn't thrill me, And I think Katt was just saying, as a seasoned comedian, a guy that's toured around the country in different, and not just here in the United States. He's gone outside the country, performing in Canada and, Iceland, different places like that. He's seen things and know how the game was played, and he knew what it takes. And he, would perform sometimes when they wouldn't even have people in the audience. You'll find that. I went to a special years ago. I remember when John Witherspoon came to Southern. And I remember a whole mini dome at Southern wasn't even packed. Now, John Witherspoon was there along with a couple of other comedians and one comedian in particular. And one of the comedians, he was on, he had been on BT before. He did a BT movie. Was real funny guy. His whole set was killer, but it was all about sex and so forth. And some people don't like to hear, just sex jokes and jokes about, my penis in your vagina, but that's a style. And her style with Tiffany's style is different. And Katt also was clapping at Kevin Hart. I know people that don't think Kevin Hart's funny. It's all about styles. They don't think Kevin Hart's funny. People that don't think, I know people that didn't think Bill Cosby wasn't funny. I know people that don't think Jerry Seinfeld is funny. And I've never watched Seinfeld, but for some reason, Jerry Seinfeld will make $250 million a year. So I can respect the man for it, but somebody is watching. She's found Tiffany Haddish obviously has that audience, but yeah, white people are giving her that time, that moment, just like Cardi B. I mean, you may like Cardi B or Tiffany Haddish because she's real, but would you put them your top 5 rappers of all time? No gender bias. Would I put Tiffany Haddish in my top 10 comedians right now? I don't think so. But that's just me. Now somebody else is going to think differently. Who's your top 5? You all can put it in your box about top 5 comedians of all time. I can tell you just me personally, and if I'm not doing a particular order, Richard Pryor, Bernie Mac, Eddie Murphy, Red Fox, and I want to give a toss, and even George Carlin, between George Carlin and Robin Harris, and be up on it. Maybe I'd give George Carlin the edge because Robin didn't live too long, unfortunately, and he didn't have the break that he wanted, and he died young at 36 years old. So just imagine the things that Robin Harris would have done had he lived. He probably would have been, he was basically Bernie Mac before Bernie Mac. They all, that whole down home style that they had, that was great. Okay, Valiant Thor says they pick and choose a few people that they're going to make famous and the public is forced to like them. That's a very good point because we see that in music as well. It's not just in comedy. Like they do force and throw things at you. But there are also people, and we know this, that are famous for absolutely nothing and get millions of dollars. Look at the Kardashians. Like they have no talent other than making a sex video or modeling. They'll do some modeling and so forth. But other than that, they haven't accomplished anything. Now, you're gonna get people that are jealous of it. Am I jealous of them? No, I'm not jealous of them. But it just makes me ponder and wonder, what the hell am I doing? What is up with this world that we get these people who are not talented but can make millions of dollars? And if you go to school and get an education, you go and get a doctorate degree, you do all of these things, you work hard, but yet you're still struggling or in debt. And that's the way our world is right now, unfortunately, in the United States. Slavery, the new slavery is debt, is credit card debt. I honestly believe that. Student loans, those are the new forms of slavery. Right now, if you go to college and school, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody from doing that, you got to think about it too. Like, when am I going to have a backup plan to help pay for those student loans once I get out? Because once school is over and you graduate, you're obligated to pay all of this shit back. And they just got people who, are not, that are not talented. There are people who work very hard and they're not going to get the same cut, unfortunately. And even Sinbad talked about it on the Breakfast Club a few months ago. He said how there are people who he knows are hella funny, real talented, but are they going to get a 6-figure deal, a 6-figure deal from a Netflix? Are they going to get a commitment to make 4 pictures from Netflix, like Adam Sandler gets? And all of Adam Sandler's movies, if you look, they're all bombed. They're all panned by critics. Excuse me, I shouldn't say they're all bombed, but no, they are all panned by critics. Now, the reason why he gets those is because Like take a movie like The Ridiculous Six that he did. The Ridiculous Six, I believe, was one of the most, if not the most viewed movie on Netflix as of now. So even though it's critically panned, somebody's watching it. When somebody is watching those movies, Netflix is making money and they realize, well, let me do another movie with Adam. And it can be the shit's fun. It could be shitty. It doesn't matter. People will come and watch it. It's just like the high action movies that Michael Bay does. His movies critically are not great, but people will come and watch. We'll see a movie like Armageddon. They'll see a movie like Transformers 3 or Transformers 2, where they have the little Wayne looking cars. But you know what I'm talking about in that movie with those stereotypes where they had the little gold tooth, and it was actually quite niggerish and pathetic. But people would actually go and see it. And that's just the industry we're in. She's selling, she's found an audience and people like that. But I do think people like black people in a certain box, and she's taken, to me, I'm talking about Tiffany, she's taken Monique's place as the loud black woman. And that's really what I saw in Girls Trip. And truth be told, Girls Trip, from my understanding, just what Katt Williams was saying, and he may not be telling the truth or not, but he saw this script years ago. And I can believe something like that because scripts are made, years and decades. They get in development hell until they get a producer that will come and see it, uh, read the script, and green light it. And then get a studio to green light it as well. And you're off to make the script. And of course, you do your casting and so forth. Who's going to play this character? And around the time Girls Trip came out, remember, they also had that movie Rough Night that came out with Scarlett Johansson and Lenny Kravitz and Lisa Bonet's daughter. I think her name is Zoe. And I can't think of the other ladies, but I remember the girl from Saturday Night Live. She's a lesbian. I can't think of her name. But she does all of the impressions of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she's real crazy. I can't think of a name right now. Somebody, if you know a name, you can put it in the comment box. But no, but that's just the reality of the situation that we're in. If you are a person, what is this stream about? We're just talking about the comments that Katt Williams and Tiffany Haddish made, and I'm sorry, the comments Katt Williams made about Tiffany Haddish and about Wanda Smith. I talked about it earlier. Read the topic on the screen, Mr. Spreading. Yeah, and Katt Williams is real. Yeah, Katt Williams makes his own money. And I admire somebody like that. Just like Flip Wilson, a lot of people don't know. Flip Wilson owned rights to his own TV show. He kept his show. He kept the rights to his show long after he left, and that's why you never saw Flip Wilson. He didn't need to make any more money or go on television anymore. He may have done some sporadic stuff, but the revenues he got from the show, he was able to keep all of that, and never had any trouble with the IRS. Never had any trouble with owing people money. To my knowledge, I know he was in he had drug problems in his life, just like a lot of those comedians back then, from Richard Pryor to George Carlin and Freddie Prinze. They all did drugs. Red Fox, yeah. You notice they stopped playing his shows on TV Land and on TV One, because he was getting all the money. Now that he's deceased, I'm sure his family gets all of it. And I don't know what the deal is, but you notice they stopped playing it. You don't see any old episodes of that anymore. I believe Soul Train, and I talked about this before, is owned by Whites now, White Company. I think it's, I can look it up actually, just right quick. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, I just want to look at this so we can share it. Yeah. It says in 2016, BET Networks, a division of Viacom, bought all the rights to and trademarks of the Soul Train brand. So basically, BET Networks, which is owned by Viacom, basically stating that it is not a black-owned company, owns Soul Train, and that's something. Another issue we can talk about is ownership, and you can learn from the comments that Cat Williams made. Is he is his own man and he owns his own stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. When he talks about making deals with uh, a a network like HBO or Netflix, he goes there and he tells them what he wants and control over it, and they'll hire and they'll go ahead and they will give him that deal. Why? Because he can draw in the numbers. And really, this was a missed opportunity, I think, for Monique, because while all of the attention was on her about the boycott, she could have used that opportunity to start a tour. And she could start that tour and draw up numbers, and possibly when they see those numbers, I'm talking about the Showtimes or the HBOs, maybe they would come to her and say, hey, let's do a new deal. Let's have you on HBO and do your own special. Let's do Showtime. Because everybody's watching Monique now. Maybe not now, not right now at this moment, since time has passed since that Breakfast Club interview and the calls for the boycott, but that was very hot back then. It went viral. And you've got to always seize the opportunity when it happens. So that's basically the comment of the day. Seize the opportunity when it's there. Never forget that. It's just like what I saw movie The Founder. If you go see the movie The Founder, even though the movie basically is about Ray Kroc and how he acquired McDonald's, and he, as a businessman, he was a milkshake salesman, and he met with the McDonald's brothers. They ordered some milkshake machines from him, and he saw the system that they had, and he liked it so much, and he liked the McDonald's name. Though you didn't find this later on, he decided to convince them to franchise it. When the business started to grow, he wanted to do more things. Well, yeah, she did play victim, and she blamed, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and she's a comedian too. But no, let me get back to my point for a second. Yeah, but with McDonald's, he saw opportunity and he took control of it, and he stole it. Obviously, what he did to the brothers wasn't right, because he never paid them 1% of the royalties that they were supposed to do, and they agreed to a handshake deal. But that's also another story, and another lesson on that is always get something in writing, especially when it involves money. Never, ever, ever give another person control over your name. Learn the value of your name and your brand. And that's obviously what Katt is doing. He knows his brand. And I think Tiffany now, since she's getting all this attention, winning the Emmy, and Katt won his Emmy. Congrats to both of them. I wish them the best. There's an audience for her. So hopefully she holds on to it and she'll get it. Same thing with these other comedians. Like, I've watched, try to look at Hannibal Buress and Gerard Carmichael, and honestly, I couldn't. Some things just didn't appeal to me. But that's who they put out. I've heard people that don't think Mike Epps is funny. Now, when you watch Mike Epps in his movies, I laugh hysterically. I've seen his stand-up special. I laugh. He did his stand-up special. I think they came out in '09. That was killer, I thought. But some people, they prefer, him in his comedy instead of him in his stand-up. I heard that all the time about Mike Epps. Comedians talk about it too, a lot about him too. Steve Harvey, I haven't heard too much about him. Some people don't like him personally. I don't know him personally, but some of the things I've heard haven't been good about Steve Harvey. Bernie Mac, however, I've heard great things about him. Bernie Mac, actually, my dad actually met him when he was shooting a movie here in New Orleans, Mr. 3000. They shot that in our neighborhood. And so my dad was talking to his neighbor, and Bernie Mac actually stuck his head inside my dad's car and My dad got out the car and hugged Bernie Mac. That's the type of man he was. I hear nothing but good things about him. So we don't have real people like that anymore. Guys, I don't want to keep rambling and I'm mentioning different stuff, but the message for the day is know the value of your brand and seize the opportunity when you get it. Who else is in the chat room? Why don't y'all say something, leave a comment. Please just be respectful. Thank you all for joining me. Let's see what else. Something I wanted to put in here too. I'll be doing another live stream real soon later this week. Yeah. You know, another thing about the situation too is if it's true that her husband pulled this gun on Katt Williams, she can lose her job just because she was associated with him. Now, I saw the video and I didn't see the husband pull out the gun. I talked about it earlier, Thor, earlier in the stream. So if you go and play it back, I mentioned it. But if you look at the video, it didn't look like he pulled a gun, but I did see him raise his shirt up. Now, and then Katt Williams ran, and his bodyguard ran off, or whoever. I'm assuming that was his bodyguard. So again, was it worth it that you guys get into a physical or possible deadly altercation over some roast and jokes that happened on the radio? I don't think so. No. And Katt even tried to play it off. TMZ tried to get him to talk about it, but he was real low key. See, he knows the game. He knows what what TMZ is about. They're about ratings. They're not about news. And that ties in also to everything we're saying. They put stuff out there for you because they know it's clickbait. They know you're going to watch it, and people don't actually sit down and take the time to read and learn things, just like with the Cosby case. Most people don't know that half these women were proven liars. What's up, B1? Anyway, guys, leave a comment, say anything. I got to get back to work. But tell me, what are your thoughts? Do you think that Wanda Smith was out of line? Do you think Katt Williams was out of line? Do you think that uh, what he was saying about Hollywood and how the industry picks certain actors and actresses and comedians to exposure? Do you think he was telling the truth? Do you think he was right? State your opinions, and I'll be out. I will see you when I see you. One love. Peace.